About 5 years ago now, people were asking us a lot for how do you manage dependencies in Kanban, and my attitude to that was you build Kanban systems, you hold an operations review, you talk about the dependencies at the operations review, and magic happens. And people didn't believe me, we had to do something. And at the time, Maria was working for eDreams in Barcelona, and one of our colleagues, a lady called Blanca, who was managing some sort of finance department, finance, they had a Kanban board, and they had this additional board, some sort of planning board. And when I saw it, I realized that it was a pattern. I'd seen things like that before. And what these planning boards were, they were some form of dynamic reservation system. Now, eDreams and Maria's group, particularly at eDreams, their job was to sell airline tickets. And airlines already understand the concept of a dynamic reservation, because you can have a regular ticket on a plane, a scheduled flight, but you can also have a standby ticket that basically says, we don't know which flight you're going to be on, but if you show up at the airport, you can stand by and we'll put you on a plane if there's space. And then there's another concept which is popular here in Spain, at least between Madrid and Barcelona, for example. It's also common between London and New York with British and American airlines, and Madrid and Barcelona is Iberia, and that's called a shuttle ticket. And a shuttle ticket is somewhat similar to a standby ticket, but it's like a first-class standby ticket. You show up with your shuttle ticket and you say, I want to be on the next plane, and they put you on it. So, and the shuttle ticket passengers between Madrid and Barcelona, they actually get a higher class of service than the business class passengers do. So airlines already understood this concept of having a class of reservation, and to enable that, use that to enable the management of uncertainty. So, for example, why would a Barcelona businessman making a business trip to Madrid on a Friday morning, why would he want a shuttle class ticket so that he can go home after his meeting? Why is there an advantage than having a business class ticket with a scheduled time? Well, if his meeting finishes early, he can go to the airport and he can go home early. Now, if you live in Barcelona, why would you want to go home early on a Friday afternoon? Beaches, golf courses, there's much more fun stuff to do, and it beats the heck out of working. Right, so classes of reservation are used to manage uncertainty. And I recognized that that was something that we could leverage to build a dependency management system for Kanban systems. And what better place to try it than the airline ticketing solutions department at eDreams. And that was Maria. So that's why Maria's the expert in this stuff, because she was the first one to actually do it with the level of complexity and the classes of service. So I want to do the introduction, show you the theory, and then Maria's going to take over and show you the implementation. And if we have enough time at the end, she's going to challenge you to come up with your own solution.
So all that in 45 minutes?
Yeah, we'll see how well. And we only had 40 minutes because it took 5 minutes after lunch. So the concept of two boards, there's the Kanban board in the bottom, and then the first ever one we saw was a separate board that was above the Kanban board, but sometimes to the left-hand side or on an adjacent wall. And while it's not the only way to do it, the most common way is to lay out boxes on this board based on weeks of the calendar year. And the tickets that go into these boxes are tickets that are basically saying, I'd really like to be started on this week. I would like to get pulled off this board and onto the Kanban board in week 24, for example. So it's a reservation. And that's the basic thing. And the first one we saw documented, actually the first one documented is the Posit Science case study that we use in our KMP2 training. That was Janice Linden Reed. The second one we saw anywhere was this article by Sami Honkanen, and the reference for that is there. And Sami's an Agile coach in Finland. Okay, next. Let's skip the detail of this and move on. Right, so I'm going to show you 5 classes of service for reservations. I think Maria's only implemented 3, and she'll explain why her own version is a little different. Now, this is from our Enterprise Services Planning class, and this particular slide, it was Alexei who put this one together. So he's got 3 classes of, there's a guaranteed reservation. In other words, if we put it in week 24, we are guaranteeing that we will start this ticket in week 24. Then we've got managed capacity, which is basically saying that there could be some variation in the number of slots we have available, that in principle for a particular customer we have a certain amount of capacity, but it varies from week to week. Maybe on average we understand that. And then let it be is, you know what, we're really not going to do anything about this. Now, what's the problem we're trying to solve? Well, there's this thing that allegedly helps you scale Agile in large companies called the Scaled Agile Framework, or SAFE. And their solution to dependency management is put everybody in a big room together, map out all your requirements for the next 3 months, figure out the dependencies, and join them all together on the wall using pieces of string. Now, one company we know from around Europe, Poland and Austria and some other parts of Europe, they fly about 500 people into Frankfurt once every 3 months, and they rent space in a big hotel's banqueting room, and they have them talk about all the work they've planned for the next 3 months and figure out the dependencies and stick them all on the wall and join them all with pieces of string. Cost €2 million. How long do you think the plan they've made with all the bits of string joining the dependencies, how long do you think that survives? 2 weeks. Yeah, 3 or 4 days, quite possibly, before someone discovers a dependency we didn't discover. So the core problem we're trying to solve is that traditional approaches to dependency management are hugely expensive and incredibly brittle. They're basically just a waste of time. Now, the company I just described abandoned what I described after 3 times. After spending €6 million over 9 months to do their dependency management, they're basically like, we do SAFE, but we don't do da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, and the product increment planning dependency management. We don't do any of that shit. So that's the problem we're trying to solve. Well, if something isn't that urgent, do you care whether it has a dependency or not? No, you do not. Why would you bother flying a whole bunch of people to Frankfurt to find out whether it did? Complete waste of time. So, in other words, whether you care about dependency management depends on the risks that you're trying to manage and primarily the cost of delay, the urgency of the item. If you don't understand the risks associated with the item, you can't manage the dependency appropriately. Your businessman from Barcelona who's going to Madrid for a meeting on a Friday morning, he understands the risk he's trying to manage. He wants to be on the beach later on that day. He doesn't want to be sitting in a meeting with bankers in Madrid on Friday afternoon. He wants to get that meeting over and done and back to the airport and back to Barcelona and on the beach before the sun sets. That's his risk. And he manages that risk by paying extra for a shuttle ticket. So, we've got 5 classes of service. And the rows here are just-in-time dependency discovery. In other words, if we don't care, and like, oh, this one's got a dependency. All right, let's send a request to the shared service that we need to use. Imagine we're an advertising agency and we do we do ad campaigns. Customer comes and says, we have a new product, could you build a campaign for us? And it's clients like Vistaprint in Boston and Barcelona, for example. It's a case study that we've had at our conferences in the past. Well, if you're going to build an ad campaign, you need lots of shared services. You need copywriters, copy editors, picture editors, graphic designers, photographers, and so on and so on. So if that ad campaign isn't urgent, it's sort of the bread and butter, like brand essence type of campaign. When I worked for a phone company called Sprint, our core message was all your calls are clear, because we were the first digital 2G service in the United States. So the essence of our product was it was digital and all the calls were clear. Well, every so often, the clarity campaign was replaced with a new one. But did it matter if it was this month, next month, 3 months from now? No, it doesn't. Does it matter whether the next version of Windows 10 comes out this month or next month? It doesn't matter to you, and it doesn't matter to Microsoft. There is no urgency. There is no cost of delay in the next version of Windows. So that's the top line. Dependency discovery is part of a definition of ready. In other words, we wouldn't pull it in at the front. So for example, customer comes and says, part of our brand is that we always use famous spokespeople and we always do location shooting of custom photographs. So now you've got a dependency on casting. You need to be able to schedule the celebrity. You need to be able to schedule the location, and that you want to know that you can achieve all of those things. You know, if you're going to put Tom Hanks in your ad campaign, you want to know he's available before you start working on it. Right? That's the second class. And the third class, dependency discovery, with the definition of ready, plus it's a fixed date. So the thing that's coming in, maybe it's an ad campaign for Christmas, and you can't reschedule Christmas. You can miss it completely, but you can't reschedule it. So it has a fixed delivery date for when you want to start that campaign, and therefore it's the highest risk. So mapping those, we end up with 5 classes of service. Now very quickly we'll take a look at what those look like. So we'll start with class 1, which is just-in-time discovery and let it be. We don't really care too much about if there's a dependency. So slide. All right, so in that case we've got our main Kanban board at the top and our shared service at the bottom here. And a ticket arrives, we don't even bother to do any risk assessment or analysis on it. And along the way we discover, oh, it's got a dependency. So we send a ticket to the other board, and the other board deals with it whenever it deals with it. And then it comes back to us and we carry on. And it took longer than we might have wanted, but nobody really cares because the risk was low, the cost of delay was low. All right. Next. Class 2, where we do actually care about we don't want a huge long tail in our service delivery. So if we do discover a dependency, we want the shared service to cope with it reasonably quickly. And the way to do that is for the dependency to recognize that we are one of its regular customers and to allocate some capacity for us so that there's a high probability that when we send them a ticket, they have capacity to work on it almost immediately. And that takes away some of the tail from the lead time distribution. It makes us a lot more predictable on the customer-facing side. And for many applications, that's often good enough, unless the risk is very high and the cost of delay is high. Next. All right, so this third one, we pasted these from mine into Maria's computer and it screwed up some of the colors, so I apologize for that. All right, so now we want to make a reservation on the shared service to ensure it gets dealt with promptly, which means that on the front end, we need a little bit of risk assessment to say, is this something we care about, and what do we think the probability is? Now, it could be a very simple probabilistic assessment. This is a campaign coming from, let's pick a customer, Iberian Airlines. And there's a 50% probability that when Iberia asks us for an ad campaign, we actually need to do custom photography. So with a 50% probability, we need a reservation for the photographer. Now, is that a hard reservation? Not really. You've only got 50% probability. So you want to send a message to the photographer, we might want some of your time on week 26. And you need some kind of arrangement there that says, we might not use that time, and if we don't, you're free to use it with somebody else, with someone else. That's just a business arrangement. That's a service level agreement, to use IT kind of language. All right. So now the shared service needs a reservation system, and Maria is going to show you how they've implemented these. All right, now level 4, it's getting riskier. They've got a higher cost of delay, there's a greater urgency, there might be other risks, and now we need a reservation system on both the customer-facing service and the shared service. So on the customer-facing side, the customer can say, I want capacity from you on week 23 and going forward. And with that, we know that we're going to need to book guaranteed booking on our shared service, like a photographer, say in week 26. And we need that back pretty quickly because we have a service level agreement, some urgency associated with what we're doing with the customer, maybe even a hard deadline. So the shared service now needs fixed delivery date class of service in the Kanban board, and we have a guaranteed booking. So in this case, it's pointing at week 24, and that's saying that you give us the ticket in week 24, we will start it then. Guaranteed. You've got a guaranteed seat on the aircraft. Next. So there's the fifth one, where everything is so critical, there's really no room for any maneuver whatsoever. That's a high-risk ticket that's coming in from the customer. We need to guarantee the customer when we're going to start it. It has a fixed date class of service, so the customers come to us with their Christmas advertising campaign and they want to launch that in the middle of November in order to get the maximum value from it. And the contract that they've given us says you must deliver the campaign ready for launch on, say, November the 15th. And we don't get paid if we don't hit that date. So we have fixed class of service on the input, and that means that we have to cascade very high urgency, either fixed date class of service or expedite requests into the shared services to ensure that we can hit the deadline. If there's a lead time distribution for this customer-facing service, we need to be at this end of it, the left-hand end. You need to process it quickly. So 5 different classes of service, different ways of doing dependency management. Now the reality is that for most businesses, stuff that needs to be managed this way, which coincidentally is the default solution for other scaled agile frameworks, this is a very small percentage of the work, certainly less than 15%. So why would you spend all the money managing everything the same way? That's just stupid. So this is the background on it, and the mechanics of actually how to implement it, I'm going to hand over to Maria, and she's going to explain that. Oh, just one more slide back. It is possible to make multiple bookings based on urgency. So week 23, the ticket we're holding, yeah, it's not that urgent right now. You know, if you could start it, we'd love you, but it's all right. Week 24, we're beginning to feel a bit uncomfortable in our chair. It would be kind of nice if you really started it this week. Week 25, you better fucking start my ticket or we're not doing business with you again, right? So multiple reservations with different classes of service for the reservation. And if it gets started on week 24, then the week 25 reservation just gets deleted from the system.
Okay, let's go with the real world now. On top of all the problems that David shared that we wanted to solve, us as a team and in eDreams as a product owner, the main problems we were looking for to solve, it was related to the visualization of the upcoming work. There was no communication with the team or real communication, visualized plan with them for them to know what's coming next. Of course, as a team we collaborate, we share what's coming next week, but there was no plan ahead of that. The lack of plan. We wanted to achieve a commitment from the team that we are not just delivering and working in a continuous delivery environment, which is good. It's something that is helping us to keep on delivering in a successful way. But there was no commitment about when to deliver, no fixed dates, we just deliver. That way, with that plan, we achieved much more milestones related to big projects and a fixed date objective related to KPI, for example. This is something that helped us a lot to solve that problem. The commitment from the team that we need to achieve dates as well. The dependencies, internal ones in the team. As many people, we are working with multiple skills in the team. So we are UX, backend, front-end, QA sometimes. So all of that, it was a big problem for us. Sometimes the backend work was done, or was there for many, many weeks, waiting for the front-end one to be delivered, to be pushed to production. This is something that we cannot afford, because time to market then increases. That's the thing. Then a very specific problem I had during my experience at eDreams, it was that there was no room in the backlog for iterations. We were working on delivering a product first, an MVP, then working on how we can iterate that. And we have the backlog sorted by priorities as usual. Then when the iteration that we discovered during the cycle time of the initiative, there was no room to prior a new one unless you move all the others down. So we needed to book capacity somehow for that, even if we didn't know the result of the first MVP, for example. And the final one, it was we were not predictable enough at all. We didn't know how many stories we were going to be able to achieve on a weekly basis, the type of those, if we need to work first on the guaranteed work or not, the most critical ones. So I started with a very simple, very basic solution inspired by the model of David's model, which I got some feedback, I need to be honest, about some people in the community, in the Agile community, saying that this was too much simple, maybe, but it was very effective. The two models, first we tried the basic one for them to understand what was the real outcome. That was based on risk profiling. This was the first stage of defining our classes of service in the reservation system, was based on risk profile. And this was, that deserves another workshop maybe, the risk profile concept. The basic one, we did it, as I just said, based on risk. That was the board we used to have at eDreams. You can see here some dimensions as time on top and the internal dependencies on the left. It was quite skill oriented, and the class of service was based on risk profiling. So the guaranteed ones were the ones where the risk profile was indicating us that the risk was very low and there was something that we could tackle in the very short term. Then we had room for iterations, for intangible work as well, and for the standby, the option one, what we defined it was the highest risk items. It doesn't mean that this was going to be, if we delay it, looking at the cost of delay, that we were going to lose a lot of money, but it was risky in terms of how much time we needed to invest on the implementation, the uncertainty about the return of the initiative. That's why we consider those as an option. Then we have the mature one, which is closest to what just David shared. We also had the 6 weeks, and the classes of service were based on throughput, our throughput. And the type of work is still quite oriented to risk and the dependencies. This is what we have today. Not any dreams anymore, because I moved to a different company recently, 3 months ago. I'm now working for Adevinta, a company that is owning brands as Mil Anuncios, Cochesnet, Fotocasa, Habitaclia. I'm missing something, but I can't remember now. So I'm moving from e-commerce to marketplaces, and here is where we are testing the more mature model, given that this team is a bit more mature than the previous one. What we have calculated is the number of tickets based on our throughput that we can deliver for sure. It's 15 in that case. The guaranteed ones, number of stories per week is 15. The reserve, which means this is the minimum to the mean, the average of number of tickets we are able to deliver, it's 11. And the option, the ones that are less probable to happen, are from the mean to the maximum number of tickets. In that case, we have from 26 to 44, we have the 18. Okay? Do you follow me? More or less?
So this team on average does 26 tickets per week.
That's it.
And on a bad week, the worst their performance has been is 15. So they're pretty confident they can always do 15. They'll probably do 26 more or less. Mm-hmm. And on a really good week, they manage to do 44. So they can afford to take 15 guaranteed slots, and then the next set from 15 to 26, those are fairly likely to happen, but from 26 to 44, that's very marginal. So things that have an importance, a high risk, a fixed delivery date, a high cost of delay, they need to get booked in the first 15. Mm-hmm. And the ones that are on the margin, depending on the cost of delay or other risks associated, they go into the second or the third category.
Or imagine that you need to cover a minimum number of back-fixing tickets that you have based on your demand. You need to cover that, yes or yes. There's no option for that. So now, hands-on.
One question.
Sure.
Is this the same type of work item?
Sorry, second?
Are they the same type of work, or there are multiple type of work there?
Multiple ones. I can show you later. I haven't showed you here because you are right.
You have, I think, 10 minutes.
Yeah, that's why we need to move to the hands-on.
There might be more value in spending the 10 minutes if you talk more about your experience mm-hmm. and the value that this has brought to eDreams, because the technique spread a bit around eDreams, and then also at Shipstead, or whatever you're calling it.
Adevinta now, formerly Shipstead. Yeah.
Maybe use the time to talk more about benefits and some of the challenges rather than have the group do the exercise.
Let's try then. So, in that case, for the basic model, what we achieved clearly is a commitment on the time to deliver the fixed date. It has to be implemented. It's a commitment from the team. It's not just we are delivering. And doing real estimation, sorry?
It's a service level agreement, 6 weeks.
Within the team. Well, here we were assuming in the basic one, as we didn't have data, we didn't have historical data to rely on. We didn't even know how many tickets per type of work we were able to deliver on a weekly basis. So we said, okay, let's try to set up an objective, something acceptable, taking into account the time to market threshold, let's say. And we started doing the 8 stories per week, which was basically translated into the number of people that we had in the team. As you can see, it's 1 ticket per person per week. Sometimes we were delivering more, sometimes we were delivering less, so that's why this system is not like a Gantt project planning. It's alive, it's flexible, it's moving on a weekly basis, and we'll constantly learn from that. That was the experience on that one. It was telling us that we needed data to know how many tickets we were able to deliver on a weekly basis and on a per type of work basis. That's why data is so basic. This is something that we have today, and it seems pretty basic, pretty obvious, but not every single company is providing you this data. It's not easy to get all the historical data, something really reliable. So this model helps us to achieve the commitment, to visualize a plan, to share this plan with the management, not just with ourselves, to avoid the dependencies, the internal dependencies within the team, basically related to the skills, the multi-skill team. On the cons side, if you are not properly communicating why you are doing that and how you are doing that, and this is something that is going to you are going to be iterating on the model, and this is going to be better and better. The risk is that this becomes a pure capacity allocation board, which I don't mean this is not good. If that works, then try it. But depending on who is the one managing this type of boards, you can look at it as a pure capacity allocation, and the worst part would be that you might be moving, and there is a high risk, I would say, that you might be moving to the push mode. This is something, no? Assigning tickets to a specific person. This is something we never did, but I heard some people is starting doing that, looking at taking this as a best practice. So basic, it's good for them to start understanding what are the benefits, and that we really need a plan, and collaboratively we create a plan together with the team, but it has those risks. The mature one, as I said, you need data, mature team, open-minded team to try it, because sometimes it's not easy to understand for everybody, and you need, on top of that, as you mentioned before, we need to go beyond that and identify not just the number of stories that you are able to deliver on a weekly basis, but the type of work. If it's front end, if it's UX, if it's back end, if it's QA, if it's whatever, because The front end, when I started presenting this model, the front end came to me and told me, listen, I'm not able to deliver 15 stories per week. This is not true. Maybe the front end tasks are 2-3 items per week. That's true. So that's why we need to create that additional level, which is a type of work. I'm going to show you another chart. That one. Here's the velocity per week on a per work type basis. And here we have more or less a sample of the type of work we cover in the team. Here we have bug fixing, which is 30% of our demand. It's crazy, I know, but those are real problems from the clients. Then we have requests, external requests. We have research, which is closest to the UX. A story is purely backend related. A story is front-end related. The UX, support, tasks, pure UX design tasks. This, it's very difficult to manage when you have 7 people in the team and 30% bug fixing demand. It's very, very difficult. And this plan, it's helping us a lot to achieve the objectives, to have a plan, to visualize it. And this is the 3rd month I'm trying this new model in Adevinta, formerly Shipstead, in the more specifically in coches.net vertical. And the stress and how stressed the developers were about this 30% demand on bug fixing has decreased dramatically. They know what's going on. They didn't even know what's going on, and they didn't have a plan to achieve the objective. I'm not sure if we are going to achieve the OKRs this quarter. I'm not sure about that. It's we have 1 month behind, but I have quite a high confidence that at least we have a plan and we have tried, and there is a commitment from the team, a real commitment, and this is happening. And given that we don't have time to practice, I can show you, if you like, the exercise I was thinking to try to with you all today. And imagine how would you define this plan using those 2 models. You can try any, the basic or the mature one. If you don't have data, just try the basic and keep on learning, gathering data, pushing to have to get the data, to have the data, and keep on learning from the basic to go to the mature one. And I have no idea in which level of maturity we are in this company, in my new company, but they are open-minded and they are happy to try. And this is the basic thing, to convince them to try new things and not just stay in the status quo. Questions? Venga, applause.